What's going on, YouTube? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Texas Street Stories. If you have not already subscribed, help your boy out and hit that subscribe button. In today's episode of Texas Street Stories, we'll be talking about Manuel Vasquez, a Texas Mexican Mafia enforcer. This story is based out of San Antonio, Texas. Texas is big, so let's get into it. Manuel Vasquez was a member of the Mexican Mafia. Dropped out of school after the 8th grade. He worked as a welder, carpenter, and a laborer before his arrest. And so he knew how to provide. He welder, carpenter, pretty good trades. Vasquez had several prior convictions for violent felonies. In 1986, he participated in the killing of Robert Alava, who was choked with the belt, beaten with the crowbar, doused with gasoline, and set on fire. That's a messed up way to go, They did my best friend in a similar type of way, but that'll be in another story. He was convicted of aggravated assault and sentenced to 10 years in prison. He was released on parole 1991. Less than a year later, Vasquez killed drug dealer Ricardo Pachuco for failing to pay his taxes to the Mafia at 10%. Also in 1992, he stabbed Hector Zacarias. He was convicted of attempted murder and given an 8-year prison sentence. He was released on parole again in 1995. That's how it was in Texas in the 90s, man. People were committing crimes and it was a revolving door, Some people were getting murders for 10, 15, 20, just depended. 2 days before the incident, Olgario Lujan and Manuel Vasquez told Cruz that Juanita Yarbrough had to go because she failed to pay the dime, a 10% tax on the sale of illegal drugs collected by the Mexican Mafia. The hit had been ordered by Rene Munoz, a ranking member of the Mexican Mafia. I don't know, man. Like I said, Texas is big, but I never heard nobody down here in Dallas, Texas, even try to come up with that kind of idea of anybody paying any kind of taxes like that. But then again, Texas is big. And San Antonio is basically their headquarters. That's where a lot of them are from. It's not only, it's like a family, it's family, passed down to family, so. Cruz testified that had to go down were street words that meant that Yarbrough had to be killed. Cruz also testified that the plan, including robbing Yarbrough as a means of collecting the 10% owed. Were they under the impression that they had to pay, or maybe she was behind, or she didn't pay, or maybe she didn't want to pay, or maybe she was giving these guys free drugs and she felt that was enough? Who knows? Manuel Vasquez had rented room 20 of the New Laredo Motel on the evening of March 18th, 1998. Cruz and many others in the room 20 were partying, smoking marijuana, drinking beer, injecting heroin, and snorting cocaine. So that's another thing, a lot of these dudes were doing this type of crimes because I think they were full of them drugs, heroin and cocaine, Of course, they're going to make you feel like Incredible Hulk and Superman, and, you put yourself in that situation and you go forward. But, I think them drugs had a lot to do with them doing these type of crimes. At around 5:30 to 6:30 the next morning, Manuel Vasquez asked Michelle Rodriguez for her keys. Manuel Vasquez, Cruz, and Lujan then headed toward room 15, where Ibarra was staying. They carried bandanas to cover their faces and socks to cover their hands to prevent fingerprints. Lujan knocked on the door to room 15, while Manuel Vasquez and Cruz ducked into the next room, 16, the door to which was open, and began putting socks and bandanas. Man, so these guys were going. They were already going to go do what they're going to do. Try to cover up their fingerprints and you know. But no crime scene. They can always leave DNA. A hair. Nowadays it's kind of hard. Moses Bazan and Ibarra occupied room 15 of the New Laredo Motel on March 18, 1998. Bazan testified that Ibarra was scared and nervous that week and did not want to be alone. Yeah, of course not. She's dealing with these maniacs, these crazy dudes. On the evening of the 18th, Bazan encountered Cruz, Lujan, and Manuel Vasquez in the parking lot at various points in time. At 9 p.m., Bazan used some cocaine. Ibarra drank a couple of beers and went to bed. Bazan went to bed after midnight. So this guy should have been on point, man. Like, if you were there to protect your girlfriend and you see these dudes all around the motel at all times of the hour, maybe you should know that they're scoping you out. They're getting your schedule and seeing what you're doing. And if you haven't, then you should have been looking at more. Maybe y'all should have said, you know what, let's go spend the night somewhere else for the night. These guys are acting kind of fishy. Let's go somewhere else. Moses Bazan, Ibarra's boyfriend, opened the door to room 15, leaving the chain locked. The three forced their way through the door, and the chain broke loose. Them chains at the motels with the little, those ain't going to hold too long. Cruz and Lohan wrestled Bazan to the floor while Manuel Vasquez held Ibarra to the ground. During the struggle, Bazan broke a window, but he soon lost consciousness. Manuel Vasquez then asked for a telephone cord, and Lujan gave him one. Using the cord, Ibarra wrapped it around Ibarra's neck and began strangling her. Ibarra bit Manuel Vasquez on the hand, and Manuel Vasquez yelled, "She's biting me." Bazan then saw and heard strike Ibarra, yelled, striking Ibarra about 10 times. Cruz went to assist Vasquez. Bazan also yelled for help while he was fighting with Cruz and Lujan during the struggle. While Cruz was attempting to strangle him with an extension cord, Bazan saw Manuel Vasquez punch Ibarra and heard her final cry before she died. And so he was there, he was getting strangled himself, and he heard her get strangled and heard her last cry, but he was there to protect her, but he should have been on point too. Lujan fought with Bazan while Cruz began gathering valuables, including cameras, jewelry, and stuffing them into a pillowcase. Manuel Vasquez threw at Lujan the kitchen, and Lujan moved to stab Bazan, but missed and hit the floor, bending the knife. Also, he got lucky right there. During the struggle, Bazan kicked a hole in the wall to the next room, 16. At that point, Manuel Vasquez joined the fight against Bazan and hit Bazan on the head with the gun. So he pistol whipped him, but Bazan lost consciousness again. Bazan decided to play dead and rolled his eyes back into his head so that only the whites were showing. He heard a conversation in which someone said they should just cut him up in pieces and throw him in the lake. And they were going to cut him up and throw him in the lake, but I guess he was too heavy to. However, the men were having difficulty moving Bazan, and one of them said, "Let's get out of here. We've been here too long." Vasquez, Lujan began gathering valuables. Soon they heard police sirens and they left the room and drove Rodriguez's car to George Martinez's house. Because the three were covered in blood, they changed clothes at Martinez's house. Vasquez had been wearing blue warm-ups during the crime. The three men then went to Mayfield Motel where they watched the news and used some drugs. After a couple of hours, they returned to Martinez's house, where later on that day they were arrested. So they went back to the motel room, watched the news, and just, I guess, laughed at the craft of work they did. They were carrying out the orders for the Mexican boss, Rene Munoz, who spent years on the Texas Department of Public Safety's 10 most wanted list until his arrest in 2012. And so he was on the run for a good minute. Vasquez was convicted in November of 1999 and sentenced to death by lethal injection, executed on March 12, 2015. Vasquez, in the final statement, told his family and friends he loved them and thanked the Lord for his kind and merciful mercy, faithfulness, and unconditional love. In Jesus' name I pray, he said. Then he told the warden, I'm ready. 17 minutes after the drug began, Vasquez, 46, was dead. He took 3 deep breaths, then began snoring loudly. The snores became progressively quiet, and all movement stopped with less than a minute. You know, that's the life. You know, he was out there. You know, being in that life. You know, collecting taxes. You know, but down here in Texas, that's. I guess it was common at the time. I don't think it is common no more in San Antonio. Since the Tango Rojones took over that. I don't think it's like that anymore. But it was, I guess, at one time like that. It was never like that in Dallas. I never heard of nothing like that. Any 10% that I would ever pay was going to a bond or a lawyer, never to nobody else. So, but that's just the way it was in these Texas streets. And once again, thank you for tuning in to Texas Street Stories, and I hope you enjoy it. I'll be working on a lot of things. Hopefully the stuttering stops. And thank you for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit that like button. Any kind of comment, negative, positive, is good feedback. And thank you for watching.